guess we'll get started. I'm not sure about Dan, but Sean can't make it. Unfortunately, he's traveling, so he won't be able to join us. Is there anyone? Oh, okay, yeah, I'll start. Is there any public participation? I see a couple of people have joined. They'd like to say anything. Andy.
Hi, Rob. Andy Bray here.
Hi, Andy. Sherry, did you want to say anything? Did you have any public comments?
I don't, but well, I kind of do. I'm just curious about the food rescue program for next year. Wondering if we can start thinking about that, if it's a possibility for the, just to jumpstart it again and perhaps extend it if possible.
You are on our list to call. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
That is pretty much a certain. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about working out some subcommittees. There's been a couple of civics groups from different schools have reached out in literally this week. So, yeah, we're going to figure out a game plan. We'll talk to Susie and we will get back to you. So we will be looking for your help and advice. So, Sorry, Carol.
That's all right. So quick comment, Carol from 294 Main Street, Wakefield. And the time of year is coming around for a lot more noise from the gas powered stuff and the leaf blowers. And I noticed that there's a handful of towns in Massachusetts that either have an outright ban or an hour ban on it, and they have all these alternatives for, encourage handheld for exercise or the battery operated. So I kind of just like to have that tossed out there just to consider at some point.
Okay, all right. I'll make. Is it something you're looking to put forward as a town bylaw change, or as a noise ordinance, or?
Well, actually, I'm kind of curious if anybody else has been looking into that at all. Because like I said, when I looked it up, I was pleasantly surprised that places like Brookline, Newton, Cambridge have either ban or outright hour restrictions. Of course, California has a zillion towns that do this.
Okay. I can look into it and I'll get back to you. I'm not sure that's on us, but I can help you out. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Was there any other public participation? No? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public participation. Next on the agenda, welcome the new appointees. So I thought I did see Dan. Okay. So I'll start with Melissa. Or shall we introduce ourselves first, I guess, right? I'm Rob Darnell. I'm the current chairperson of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. I'm a contractor in town and I've been on this committee since the start. And I'm also the chair of the farmers market for the last 15 years, I think. So, Anne, would you like to go next? You're next on the screen.
Sure. I'm Ann Waite. I work for the Department of Public Works. I'm filling in for Joe Conway tonight.
Thanks, Ann. Tom?
Tom Betcher, Gas and Light Commissioner, liaison from the Gas and Light Board to the ESC.
Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin Greenberg. I am an architect and I've been on the committee for 2 years.
Thanks. And then Myra?
Hi, I'm Myra Sessions. I'm one of the citizen appointees to the board since the start with the other citizen appointees. So we started in April of, what year was that? 2019?
2019.
And I professionally, I work in healthcare. I'm a consultant. So I've been the one that's learned the most, I think, through this committee.
Mary?
Hi there, I'm Mary Hasher, Vice Chair of the committee. I am also a resident and also in healthcare, Director of Provider Services. So I'm also learning a lot.
Great, thanks. Uma, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Uma. I'm in 11th grade and I'm on the youth council and I'm a liaison to the ESC from the youth council.
Thanks. And Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Polari. I'm a junior at the high school as well as Uma, and I'm also on the Wakefield Youth Council and a high school liaison to the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
Melissa, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Melissa Houston, and I'm a new member of this committee, and I've been working with the committee in the last year to pass the styrofoam ban last fall, and right now working with them to implement those bylaws along with the plastic reduction change in the bylaw, and working with businesses so that they can adapt to those new rules.
Thanks. And Dan? Hi, Dan.
Yeah, Dan Noren. I'm a new board member as of yesterday. And I've been a Wakefield resident for over 50 years. I am now retired, but I have been in industry, mainly computers, semiconductors. I was a teacher in Lynn for 5 years as a career change. Then I was a program manager at the Museum of Science, and now here I am as a board member of the Environmental Sustainability Council.
Thank you. Welcome both of you. So Sean couldn't make it, and then we're short a couple of the other student members, so we'll introduce those guys next time. So we have the new board.
Does Susie want to introduce herself? She was able to join.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see her coming. Where? Oh,
Sorry
sorry,
to put you on
Susie.
the spot.
It's okay. I'm sorry. I have something in my mouth. I am Susie Bayer. I am the school committee liaison and have been sitting on the committee for a bit over a year now. But I'm also the chairperson of the school committee. So I kind of bridge the two organizations and try to focus on things that the schools care about that are also about sustainability. Welcome to our new members. I'm sorry I was late.
No, thanks, Susie. Sorry I missed you. So the second part of that, so we didn't reorganize last month because we wanted to add some more members. So we're going to reorganize now. So we reorganize every year, changing the chair. I've been the chair for the last 2 years. It's been great. There's one slight change. I probably can't be the chair this year. The governor's extended through September to be able to do fully remote, but after that, it's not exactly sure right now. So I would like to step down as chair. I would like to nominate someone, if that's okay, Myra, as the chair for this year.
I'd second that.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I see none.
I have a procedural question. Are we
Yes.
allowed to vote without it being previously
Yes.
advertised?
Thank you. Yes. Apparently, it's not required to put. It's a vote, but
Okay.
we just do. And
Okay.
I just missed it up. Sorry. Thank you for checking with me. I did check that today. Normally we put vote anticipated on the agenda, and I just missed it off that line. So we had a second. All in favour. So it's a roll call vote. So normally just go around the screen. So Melissa,
Yes.
me, aye. Anne,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Myra. I assume you.
I'm going to abstain.
Right.
You get to vote for yourself.
You can vote. Yeah.
You can vote for yourself.
I'm too modest.
Mary,
Sure, yes.
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
and Susie.
Yes.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Congrats, Myra.
Thank you. Although Rob agreed to help me out with procedure through this meeting and through the next couple months, because I am new to that part of it.
Yeah, I will help. I'm
Well,
not.
thank you.
Not stepping down, as I said. I'll just, if it has to be in person for the chair, I'm not going to be able to commit. So it's going to be tough for me. So should I hand everything over to you, or would you like to continue? Should I help you continue?
Continue. We have the other positions that we need to nominate and talk
Okay.
about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm happy to step down if someone would like to step in the vice chair, and we can shuffle the deck.
So I'm happy to be vice chair and support Myra for this year. I can do that, no problem.
I second Rob being vice chair.
Rob, I just want to say your leadership of this committee as we've been getting started these last 2 years, I think as everybody can tell, we're still, I think, trying to figure out sort of how to work together, and your leadership has been really instrumental in figuring that, and also really creating a space in town for the committee. I feel like, nobody really knew who we were, and we didn't know who we were and who we were going to be. And I feel like you did a really exceptional job of sort of making sure that everybody in town who works for town, all the different committees really know who we are. So I think I could really use your support for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for that. Do I get?
See, now you're bashful.
Yeah. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
All in favor, Melissa?
Aye.
Me, aye. Anne?
Aye.
Thank you, Tom.
Aye.
Robin?
Aye.
Thank you. Myra?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Dan?
Aye.
And Susie?
Yes.
The screen's getting fuller as you go. So, as vice chair, I would like to nominate Robin as secretary, if she would like to continue.
Second.
Any discussion? I think Robin's done.
Robin, your notes are incredible.
She's done a fantastic
Sorry,
job.
I'm typing while
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the magic. Having covered you one time when you missed a meeting, I fully appreciate everything that you do to keep us going.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Do I get a second?
Susie seconded.
Oh, Susie. Oh, sorry. All in favor? Melissa?
Aye.
Me, aye. Anne?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Robin?
Aye.
Myra?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Dan?
Aye.
And Susie?
Aye.
Thank you. Right, that's the procedural stuff out of the way. Next on the agenda, approval of the minutes from May 13th.
Tom, how'd I do? You're my good editor. I see a smile. What do I got?
Sorry, I was pulling. You know what? I was neglectful and didn't have them pulled up. I only had one edit for good otherwise for myself. So under the what was that? Why did my highlighting go away? Oh, I don't have any edits. Sorry.
Great.
You don't need to apologize.
No, awesome job.
All right. So approval of the minutes for May 13th. All in favor, Melissa?
We don't actually have a second on the motion.
Oh, sorry.
I second. And Melissa and Dan weren't there, right?
Right.
But
So,
they could still vote even if
Oh.
they weren't there, as believable as that is.
oh,
We confirmed that with the town attorney.
Even though
They
my
could
prior
they
minutes,
don't have to.
I don't know if
You
they
can
got.
also choose to abstain.
Yes, you have, yeah.
I'm gonna abstain, so I haven't read the minutes or I haven't been to the meeting.
Yep. I. Anne.
I'm gonna abstain. I haven't read them. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Tom,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Myra,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Dan,
Abstain.
and Susie.
Hold on. We may not have a quorum.
Okay, then aye.
Okay.
Thanks.
How many members are there?
We now have
3, 4.
9, right?
9.
So I need 5 yeses. Did I have 5?
Or five.
No, you guys have 5.
Five,
Rob,
five.
you, Myra,
Okay.
Mary,
Yeah.
Tom,
Okay, sorry.
right?
Yep.
Because I was actually going to abstain also because I did not read them. Sorry. But I still think you have 5. Robin,
Yes, we do.
Rob, Myra, Mary, Tom.
Okay.
Yep.
I just
we're
want to make
good.
sure we don't. Thank you.
Right, the quorum's now 5, right? Is that what we're saying? Yeah, 5 out of the 9. Okay. Next on the agenda. So I put this on there because there's been a couple of meetings and discussions going on the school civics projects. Susie, did you want to talk about? Did you want to say anything
Yeah,
about those?
I can give an update. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to give an update on the one we?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of interest. So just so everybody has background, as of last year, the state standards changed to include a civics curriculum for the 8th grade and also in the 11th grade. And so last year, because of COVID, things went a little sideways, but in both years, those classes are supposed to have civics projects. And students pick different things that they care about that they would like to have considered and learn about kind of how they would go advocate for change, whether it's through local government or state government or federal government. So there's been a lot of interest. Mostly I've been getting it 8th. Oh, actually, Rob, the one we did with Andy was 11th graders. So we've met now twice with a group of 11th graders who are interested in, they came to us, I think the original pitch was rolling out recycling at the elementary schools. And we were kind of like, we've already done that and more. And so we kind of ended up educating them on what had happened at the elementary schools and that there was all, recycling happening and composting and food rescue. And so we kind of started to try to direct them in the way of thinking more about maybe since we've got this going at the elementary schools, could you think about it, how we might do it at the high school and how we might do it at the middle school? And so we've had a couple of meetings. We gave them the application for a WEF grant, kind of encouraging them to take a stab at writing the grant for what they would need at the high school to be able to do it, and just really talked through like what are all the considerations. I think because last year was a tough year because of COVID hitting right about the time that they tried to start these projects, and then this year really being the first year, I don't think that the civics projects kind of turned out the way that I think administration had hoped. I think they had hoped that they'd get them kind of further down the pike. I'm not sure what we will see from that 11th grade group because they're certainly expected to do more. I've also had a bunch of 8th graders get in touch with me about recycling at the middle school. I'm trying to think if we had, there was at least 2 for recycling at the middle school. And I feel like there was another one around cleaning up around the lake, right? So lake, there was conservation, right? Because Myra and Mary, I got you guys in touch with somebody. So I've been like fielding a whole bunch of people that were coming in and needing to get kind of some kind of response. And really at the 8th grade level, all they need to do is get one adult that would know anything about the topic to respond to them. And then they can kind of be done. So I've even been getting emails this week, which like the week leading into the end of school, like there's kids that are still trying to get their input from an adult. But yeah, I think it's been really great. I think we will have the opportunity to be involved in this probably even more so next year, right? As they really get their legs under them with this civics project. And I'm really interested to see kind of what comes out of the 11th grade, because I think that's where you're going to see like real action take place, where I think at the 8th grade level, they're really just trying to like plant the seed for those kids and just kind of, I went and presented at one of my kids' actual class for their cohort, presented via Zoom, just gave them like an overview of town politics and local, all the different committees that you can be involved in. And it's really about just making kids aware of like how things get done. So yeah, I don't know, Myra and Mary, did you ever end up hearing back from that group?
Rob and I talked to them this morning, actually.
Oh, nice.
We talked by Zoom to a group of 10 11th graders, actually, and they were interested in thinking about how to improve the trash receptacles around the lake, and then thinking about like cleaning up trash and how to organize people to do that.
Yep. Now I'm remembering was it one group of 10 people or was it a couple of groups? Wow.
No,
that's
they were
awesome.
all in one classroom. So we had a Zoom with the teacher's Zoom, and they asked a couple questions. And Rob, of course, has done a lot of work on this already. So like was talking about the process to get the bins with the lid, so, I think it was a helpful conversation of thinking through all the other steps and then thinking about how do you get it, the receptacles to be picked up. I'm not sure that they had thought through sort of all those steps. And so, and then it was interesting. I think we ended on a note also about really, we talked about volunteerism in town and how, the boards, as well as sort of the people who do a lot of the work, are doing it as volunteers. And so the teacher also raised the question about sort of National Honor Society or some of the other sort of organizations that students get involved in, where there is a volunteerism component to it, as a potential sort of next step. This group, I think, I think they went through a little bit of a journey to get to a topic that they could buy into and get excited about. And so I think they're feeling a little bit stressed on time too, to your point, Susie.
Yeah.
Exams are probably next week or something. And so, but I thought it was a really great, I felt very invigorated. And it was just they asked really interesting questions. And they seemed like excited about it. So it was very cool.
Yeah. I feel like even though I'm, these 8th grade questions that I'm getting, I know I wasn't thinking about how you get things done in town when I was in 8th grade, right? And even understanding like the degree of all the things that you need to think about. So I've been really trying to help kids along the like, you need to think about this person and the DPW's involved, and then you got to talk to the principal and you got to raise money, right? Like it's complicated. But kids are capable of doing it. It's just, you got to think through the details, and you have to have an adult to, to kind of lead the way. So yeah, I think I see this only getting kind of more and more prevalent as the school district gets their arms around, like, how do you really support the students who are doing this at the 8th and the 11th grade?
Yeah. And I feel like, I feel like I was going to follow up with the teacher a little bit. Mr. Rossi, I think, was the teacher who reached out to us. To offer some addition, because this is a topic, this sort of cleaning up litter is a topic that I feel really passionate about. So there was another, some other organizations that I know of that have done this in different ways. But I also think, making it easy, making him aware of this committee, I think could be helpful too, as he's planning for next year, because since they are learning a lot, and I expect I hope there will always be environmentally focused questions that come up. I know there's a lot of students who, I know Nick and Uma and others that have a lot of interest. So I think, I had a lot of fun with it this morning. It was a very, very lovely 20-minute conversation.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so something we should probably keep on the agenda, or put it back on the agenda in the fall as as more come in, or?
Dan, I'm just imagining your skill set here.
Yes, I've been involved since 2000 with kids and through many different venues. And I'll give you a quick example. I worked with MIT and NASA, and we wrote a grant for high school juniors and seniors to enter into what we call the Chandra Astrophysics Institute. And we took kids from high school, inner city high schools, and not necessarily the most smartest ones, but the ones that were dedicated. And we vetted them all. And for 1 month during the summer, the kids went to MIT and to study astrophysics, which was phenomenal. And we had a course that didn't give them any formulas, didn't give them any kind of background. They actually had to discover all of the different formulas in order to do astrophysics. In 1 month, they were at the level of MIT students after 1 year in astrophysics. During the school year, we had these kids matched with 2 teachers and with either an astrophysicist or a teacher or somebody at MIT. And these kids were tasked to pick a particular research subject and then write a paper on the research subject at the end of the school year and then present it. These kids, what they were able to do, and with adult help and stuff like that, but what they were able to do was spectacular. They presented the paper, and these papers were published. Can you imagine what that looks like on their resume? Okay. So, we talk about kids, and they are an absolute untapped resource. You give them the environment, you give them the support, you give them the direction, and then you allow them to do what kids do best. And they dream. Kids are natural scientists and engineers and stuff like that. And it's amazing the levels that they can achieve. And so one of the reasons that I got involved with this committee was because, for many different reasons, but I am very, very concerned about local, state, and federal efforts in basically the environment and climate change and all of those types of things. And I believe that the solutions to these are the kids. If they are properly, they're motivated, but if they're properly directed and supported and given the environment to do what they need to do. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that's a really great vision, and I think it's something that we're definitely looking for in the next. We're going to talk about the next year, but I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm there.
Great, thanks, Dan. So I'm going to share my screen so I can click around, Myra, and then maybe you could just edit in because it's the Google Doc. Yeah, okay. So next on the agenda is discussion. We talked last time about moving forward. What are we going to be doing for the next year, and trying to divide some things up in some subcommittees. So I took a stat. Hang on, how do I? Oh, hang on. Sorry. How is that? Oh, yeah. No, that's the wrong page. Sorry, guys. Hang on. There we go. Got it. So I took it. So if you'll remember the MVP.
Rob, we don't see this. We see your email.
Oh. Okay. You see my email. So how do I get that up there then?
You want to share your desktop instead of sharing a program.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's probably what's happening.
Sorry, guys. Now I don't know how to get out of. I was trying to do it on 2 screens and it's too complicated now.
Oh, if you have 2 monitors, you want to make sure you grab the desktop on the other monitor.
Oh, got it. Did that work? No. Do you see a spreadsheet?
Yeah, we see the Google spreadsheet.
Oh, you see the spreadsheet? Awesome.
Yeah, you just need to change the tab. Or are you starting with the framework with the detail initiative?
Yeah.
Okay, then you're
Yeah,
on
I
the
guess
right.
so. Okay, yeah. Sorry, guys. Thanks for that. So the MVP grant, there was a ton of work done. They created a dashboard. So,
Rob, can you define that acronym, MVP?
oh, hang on.
It stands for Municipal Vulnerability.
Preparedness.
Yep.
We did it together.
Right. We all got there in the end. So can you see the
Yes.
You see this? Okay. So they had 6 categories: water, climate, communication, energy. So I took all of those and all the descriptions and I've just put them into a spreadsheet so we can look at them. Some stuff we've already done and some stuff is potentially we could look at. And I guess this was just to start a discussion on things that we would like to look at or look towards. So I'll just show you one thing we have done. I'm not sure if Cheyenne's still on, but under waste management, they did a section, the food rescue. So that's what was done at the elementary schools. So I just put Wakefield Public Schools because we now know the middle school and high school are both interested in civics projects, doing recycling and food rescue and composting, and they have the contracts for the composting anyway now. So that was just one example of stuff that we have been doing. So how do I? And then like the other one of the other civics projects that was talked about was doing a clean around the lake. So this is part of the Clean Lake Committee. So I just put some tabs on there just for discussion. So that they were talking about putting recycle bins next to the trash barrels around the lake and what was going on for the cleanup. So I put that in there. So I've just started putting some data together. It doesn't really go anywhere else right now. What's another example? We did the festival by the lake, which I think was 2 years today, I think, or this weekend, where people had suggested they wanted additional water fountains and stuff like that. So that was some, and that's also in the MVP because kids are playing at the playgrounds. They need shade trees and they need water fountains and stuff like that. So, so the others are comments that I'd made to just notes that I'd made when I attended the 2-day conference. And then the other ones are all from that dashboard, which was a combination of, I think, nearly every committee in town, the DPW, Steve Mayo, all the town councillors, they all put some input. I'm not sure if the schools did. I'm assuming they did at some point. But
yeah, I'm not sure how that would have happened because I don't think I was involved in that, and I don't think. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Actually, I think Bob was there, the facilities.
Oh, perfect. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, actually, I just tried. Bob was there. Joe wasn't the director then, but he was there.
Yep.
Town council. Yeah. I think Bill Renee, the town engineer. So they were all there. So I think that was before you, Anne, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, so I guess it's just open to a discussion of how we talked about trying to divide some things up and having some categories and having some subcommittees to try and work on some of these things. I know I see Cheyenne and Andy are on here. They're very interested in the waste side from the recycling and the food rescue and the composting and everything. So that is almost one little group. I don't know. I'm just looking for.
So Rob, does it make sense to go through each of them, especially since we have new members? And just to talk about sort of what they are and what might be. I mean, what I've been struggling with as a member is sort of we had a very active year last year. I felt like we were pretty successful. We had the plastic reduction, we had the styrofoam ban, we had a number like the food rescue and some sort of, so we had like some regulatory changes. We had some like volunteer initiatives that we were working on. And to me, it just felt like I wasn't clear what the options were even, or where the priorities might be for the committee to take on in the coming year. And so I think that's why we were pulling this list together, is to say what really has been done, what's ongoing, and what's sort of underway, and DPW is leading, and where might this committee put our effort?
Yeah.
So that's my understanding of the question.
Yeah. So I started to try and do that. I just.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I just wonder whether, I don't know, I don't want to make it be a really long meeting, but I'm wondering whether we could just talk about like underwater resources. Those 4 things were the things that were identified in the MVP, right? The water savings calculator, the lake, the watershed protection, and the water conservation, and the Clean Lake Committee is in place.
So the Clean Lake Committee is supposed to be working on a bylaw for the watershed. So that comes in under the MVP. So I'll start walking through. So that on this map that was created, these are all the different projects that are going on around the lake at different times. Some are just a pencil sketch right now. Some have got funding. Some have already been done. And then this line around here is like the outer edge of the watershed area. So every road and drain goes from those streets goes into the lake. So there was Bill is supposed to be writing up a draft change to the watershed bylaw council. So that's what the Clean Lake Committee is doing there, or is going to be doing, hopefully. Water conservation, the DPW already does the rain barrels program. There was another program discussed with the Clean Lake Committee, which hasn't taken off, is residential rain gardens. That was another discussion.
So do you feel like with the bylaw that the Clean Lake Committee is going to lead it, or do you feel like that would be a place where we as a committee could join in? Because I know the Clean Lake Committee's had a little bit of problems. You all haven't met in a while, right?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back if that committee is moving forward or it's something that we need to take on. So that one's kind of a grayish area. Whose actual responsibility that right now is, I guess. I will chase that one up, and I can get back to everyone on the next meeting. They're actually, I think, going to be talking about it at their retreat this today. So hopefully we should hear something about that. And the next.
Hey, Rob, can I just ask a question that I because there are so many possible things that we could be involved in, and because there's already an organization that's kind of like focused on the lake, would we ever say like, hey, we're going to stay away from focusing on the lake because we know a different organization has it in town, so that we could just declare like, that's not us, that's somebody else, so that we can, because we have so many possible things. Like, is that something to consider beyond, of course, if they needed our help on the bylaw, which of course we would, help wherever we needed. But I think other than that, to me, it feels like we have to decide some things that we're just not going to do, because otherwise we're going to be trying to do too many things.
Yeah, I was hoping that committee would go further right now, and it hasn't for a while. So that really should be on that committee.
Got it. Okay.
And there was, so I was on there, and someone from conservation, I think DPW, I forget who. I think Nick was on there. But yeah, so we'll ignore that one for now.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
If you feel like that committee hasn't been able to kind of move things forward the way that you would have hoped, then that's a different story.
Yeah. 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 I'll just grade that one. So, climate change. I put tree planting in there because we were talking about trees for quite a while, and that does have, the trees have the impact on the heat waves, flooding, storm impact. I mean, we lost a lot of trees in that the storm last year.
To have some sort of community tree planting events.
So there's a fund, but I'm not sure what's going on with it, and I'm not sure who's in charge of it. I don't. Anne, would you know anything about that by any chance?
Yes, so there is a community tree. People make a donation. Usually the donation's $300, and that pays for a tree. And Dennis Fazio from the Park and Forestry will take the tree money, and then depending, some people want a tree, like say on their street, and it's not on there, so he'll do it. Other people would just donate. They just like a tree anywhere in Wakefield.
Is it active? So I remember this, and I know we were starting to talk about it quite a bit. And then that was created. So do we have any statistics on it? I don't hear it advertised much. So I just want, maybe it needs to be revived or something.
Sure, so it is on the website. We probably get maybe one donation a month. Sometimes we'll get a neighborhood that will donate, 3 or 4 people will donate. But certainly we can re-advertise and make sure people are aware that that's a possibility.
And that's certainly something I think we could post even on our website, right? So maybe there's a way to re-energize it in a way that keeps this box checked, if you will. Not that we want to check boxes, but I feel like there's probably more that we can do there.
Well, I was thinking, going back to like the Civics project, I mean, the kids could get involved in, doing a tree planting around town and have it be, a big event or multiple events, and, kids can learn how to plant trees and, why they're important and all that.
Andy raised his hand, and my gut is that public participation would be beneficial here. So go ahead, Andy.
Keep it short.
Yeah, I think that we also budget for X number of new tree replacements every year in the budget. I think it's 100, but Anne, correct me if I'm wrong about that.
It does vary, and sometimes the money comes from free cash. It all depends. Last year, because we took such a big hit on that microburst, it used up all our funds to just take care of all the trees that came down. So we do have plans for a fall planting this year. We just don't know how many trees yet, depending on how much money we get.
Our idea for
Thanks, Andy.
social media post to advertise, make awareness on the program.
And I know, Tom, do you know about the Gas and Light? I know that Gas and Light also plants trees sometimes.
Yes, so the Gas and Light has a tree replacement program. They will plant utility friendly trees. I don't have the numbers of how many trees have been replaced this year, but it is a program that is active, that the utility does year over year.
That's great. I think Joe told us a couple meetings ago that because of the microburst last year, despite the best efforts of the town, we ended up at a negative last year because we lost so many trees in that microburst. So I think it is a good one to certainly keep an eye on and think about how to engage people differently, because I think it is an issue.
So is that one So with this spreadsheet, are we just going to look through them, or are we could try and figure out some subcommittee or someone to follow up on the trees, or like we just talked about,
I
putting
think
it on the
that's
media?
Personally, I think that goes under community engagement, and we should think about a community engagement subcommittee. I think, Melissa, that's sort of what you were imagining in terms of that intervention. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know like how the funding works, I guess, for this type of thing. We could do some sort of fundraiser or get a grant or something in order to get like a large amount of trees instead of, you know, waiting for people to donate or however it works.
I think that's a good thought, because I think funding is our challenge, right? I don't think there's anyone saying, no, let's not plant any trees. I think it really is a funding issue, and it sounds like there'd be a will of the community if we rallied them and trained them. Probably Dennis would need to train them to actually do plantings, right, appropriately. So I guess the question then becomes, and I don't know the answer to this, but it does go back to, are there grants out there? I know that there's more energy around this type of thing, but it's maybe the to do is there a group that would actually research if there's grants and how we would apply and what the next steps would be? I'm just throwing that out there, but that was my thought on this.
Andy, did you have your hand up again? Can we get a WEF grant for this?
No, we couldn't
No.
really get a WEF grant. It would be a stretch. I mean, if there was a direct tie to the curriculum, vis-a-vis, you know, like something at the 7th or 8th grade level about, you know, plant morphology and all, and we could somehow tie it to that, then probably, but yeah.
No. Okay.
What about, you know, I've noticed, and this is sort of a niche issue, if you will, but I have seen a few folks saying that there's no trees around like the playground areas at the schools. Just thinking if you wanted to connect it to the schools or the Wakefield education, that's a bit of a stretch. I was thinking more like state or federal funds. I wasn't thinking. No.
Yes. So part of the MVP, when we're on that, they did talk about shade trees around parks for the kids, from discussions about off-gassing of the plastic play equipment to just keeping the kids out of the sun while they're playing.
I think that would have to be like, the schools wouldn't make decisions about that. That would definitely be Dennis, I would think. Dennis Fazio kind of making some of those decisions. That's where I get a little like, eek. I'm not sure that like planting trees, first of all, is expensive, and you want to do it right so that you don't end up kind of wasting money because it's not done correctly. And I think the town wants some responsibility around where they get planted and what kind of trees are planted and what are the hardiest, right? So I'm not sure this is the one to get school involved in personally. Like, I feel like if there's anything you guys want school to do next year, it's recycling, and that should be our focus. I know it would be great to do like curriculums. Well, I would say recycling, and then trying to just get more engaged on the civics projects. That what will come out of that will be some other things.
That
But
makes sense to me.
I don't know that we can put too much pressure on schools and beyond. And then the plastics or the styrofoam ban, right? Like, 'cause that's the other thing we gotta kind of stay on them on.
Yeah.
So I would avoid kind of curriculum things that, and you know, unless our student liaisons here want to try to drive that through the high school, like that's something different. But I don't think we want to try and drive anything kind of through the curriculum beyond, or through the schools beyond the recycling stuff. Andy, you got something?
Oh,
Just a clarifying point. I mean, you know, the curriculum connection is just a function or a requisite of the WEF funding. So, you know, I wasn't meaning to suggest anything more than that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that is where you could potentially see like planting trees, kind of trying to tie that to the curriculum. Like, there's other things that in this list that you could try to tie to the science curriculum that I just think coming off of COVID, the year of COVID, that there's just, the schools are going to be, we're going to be recovering next year, right? Trying to just get everything back on track and get kids back on track, that I don't know that we can ask the schools beyond, to do that kind of additional work.
Sure. So we just move down the list.
So community resilience is less us, right?
Right.
That's sort of more on the supporting vulnerable populations. Was my understanding.
Yeah, and like the food pantry is already doing a ton of great work and stuff, right?
Yes.
Oh, so, oops. Okay, I'll figure that out later. So we talked about waste management. There's a lot we can do at the schools. So literally the day before everything shut down, I was at a meeting with the food pantry, the Boys and Girls Club, and Dan, I forget Dan's last name.
McGrath.
McGrath, thank you. Because we were just about to attempt start making the Americala zero waste build, so it would have recycling, composting, all set up, and they were about to get the contract for the compost for the food pantry and for the Girls and Boys Club. So that would be something I'd like to see start back up and finish as an example in town of something. Dan seemed to think it was an easy do for him. It wasn't really a big deal. So, and then obviously we have the food rescue, composting and recycling at the elementary schools already, and it's just moving it forward, whether that's through the civics or with our help and volunteers like Cheyenne and Andy and people like that. So that was another area. And then energy resilience resource, that's kind of just Tom, right? Right? That's the gas and light department.
Yeah, gas and light, education around things, bylaws, stuff, the Green Communities Act that we're applying for. So the energy stretch code with that are things that could be done. The next kind of like look forward towards zoning codes are like the EV stretch codes, so requiring developers for multifamily units to at least have the infrastructure in place to install chargers, if not installing chargers as part of those things.
Yeah.
So, and then the cleaner transportation as part of that, the green communities is reducing the fuel economies of our fleet vehicles, and that touches almost every department within the town. So it kind of falls under that as well.
The fleet is the next part to get signed. Right.
Correct. Yeah, that'll be on town council to kind of create a town-wide umbrella policy, and then that policy would be adopted by the various entities within town, whether that's DPW, our gas and light board. I would assume school committee for any the vehicles that fall under that.
Right.
Most of a lot of the town vehicles that are not, 4-door.
It's F-150s.
Cars are exempt.
Right. Yeah. So I was on the Green Committee today. So town council is going to approve it on the 28th, and then it goes to the school committee to sign as well.
And I assume it would be, our next meeting as well.
Yeah, I assume so. Yeah, after the town council. Yeah.
Only someone knew the chair could get that on the agenda.
Yeah, right. So but I forget the tonnage. I think it was either 70 or 80. Anything above is exempt.
Yep.
It's only small fleet stuff.
Yeah, you know, even small, it would, you know, small pickup trucks and below, really. So, you know, any of the SUVs, you know, cars and that type of stuff. Emergency vehicles are generally exempt as well. Even
I'm
if they
not sure that the school will have anything.
Yeah, you may not. I mean, you know, if there's any vehicles, I don't know, you know, what you guys have for fleets.
Yeah,
vehicles, you know,
like
maybe
the thing
a
I can
van
think
if
of are
you
like
have.
small of, right, a couple small vans. There might be a couple of small vans that, so did you guys say that the town council is voting on it on the 28th?
Yeah, I think it's on the agenda for the 28th. I'm pretty sure.
And does it require a vote?
To adopt it, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we should talk about that, Rob, because if that's something that we need to like, we don't tend to like put something on the table and vote on it at the same day. We tend to like try to put it on the table for consideration and then come back so that it gives people a chance to ask questions. But I can at least give, if you can give me some information, I'll figure it out.
Sure.
Getting us going on it.
Yeah. Okay.
And Susie, one thing I do know, it's, you know, when it's time for the vehicle to be replaced. So, you know, there's a time frame once the policy is in place and adopted, and, you know, we become a green community. I know the requirement isn't, you know, as soon as we're a green community that we have to go replace these vehicles. It's in the, you know, natural cycle of the
replacement.
And for the most part, all of the vehicles that would fall under the policy, generally their fuel requirement, you know, their fall, you know, within range. So it really isn't that much of a stretch in that aspect. So it's nothing crazy like you have to go get a hybrid. Most of the MPGs of you know, the high efficiency vehicles fall within range.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So then under other, that was just, oh, community, sorry. So they did the survey and then hang on, let me bring it up. They held public sessions. There's a video there. And then they were at the festival by the lake, if you remember. So that's just what they would do. So we're already kind of doing our own communications, right? We have the Facebook page. I'm working on the Instagram page. So I'll go back to there. And then under others, these were just notes that I'd made when we were doing the actual the 2-day conference it was. And I don't know, Anne, if you would know, but one thing that did come out was changing like some of the water fountains around the lake and especially at the parks to bottle fill ones, like at the Spalding Street Park, where the Boys and Girls Club summer camp is and the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and everyone meets. I know it was on Joe's radar, but everything just stopped.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think last year water fountains we weren't talking about those, but I'll check and get back to everyone.
Yeah, that'd be good. That was just part of the MVP, and it was there was a couple other locations that were brought up at the festival by the lake. There were some other parks and stuff that didn't have any
water.
Yeah, I think that little softball field in Greenwood, if I remember. But anyway, so this is their list. I made some goals. I was trying to narrow it down and try and figure out how we could. I'll just bring it up. Trying to come up with some goals for us or the town to adopt. I put the green communities because we're already doing that. We've already done 3 out of the 5 parts. The town, as we said, the vehicle section will start getting passed this month. And then we're currently working on the energy reduction plan, but that's that's a lot of work. We have to do every school, every public building. The last time we did it was in 2011, which is when we did the schools. So some of that's relevant, but not all of it.
And the
And Rob,
data,
did you say there's a subcommittee that's working on that?
Yes, yeah. So the subcommittee is me, Julie, Joe Conway, Steve Mayo, Ben. I forget his last name. I apologize. The building inspector,
Jen Calais.
Jane Calais. Thank you, Tom. And I can't remember who. But and the gas and light.
Great.
So we can fill out the application in October, and it doesn't have to be. We don't have to have everything together until the end of the year, so it gives us a little bit of time.
Yeah, and I know Jen gave us an update at our last board meeting that they're making good progress in getting the baseline energy data usage into the database. That those things come from billings for gas and electrical consumption. Those are kind of easier to get. Oil consumption is coming from the DPW, but they're getting all that baseline information into the database, so we get a good baseline, and then from there we'll be able to work on creating that plan for the reduction.
Yeah, so there's already quite a few people working on that one, and then Robin had mentioned in previous meetings the EUI for the goal for the high school.
So what this is, so one thing that needs to happen in order for the high school to meet, many of our goals is we have to kind of state exact rules. We can't just say we're interested in being sustainable. There has to be benchmarks they can compare to. And one measurement that you can take is establishing an EUI. So it's energy use intensity. I have no idea how it's calculated, but I can describe what things go into it. And it goes into the efficiencies of the building envelope. So making sure that the building doesn't leak. It goes into the heating system and the cooling system to make sure they're not using too much energy, and it factors it all in. And you want a low number is a good number for an EUI. And so, out there are charts that show like a typical building, better buildings like ones under the stretch code, and then people pushing, net zero emissions drive it down. So there's vague, people talking about, oh, maybe net zero, but like the project would benefit if people were more, if we can create a goal that's something they can compare it to. So I would like to see us with the permanent building committee and the high school planning committee, and I had that name wrong, I apologize, to try to, come up with a goal. That way the designer and the OPM that get hired, they have something to work with.
LEED certification.
That's a given. It's already, so everyone starts there. That's nothing. So this is pushing it further. I mean, unless you go, so LEED is, so to get money from additional to, money from the MSBA, you would say LEED silver, but even then that's not really a stretch anymore. So, you could be talking gold, platinum, but this would be a part of that because LEED talks about all sorts of things. Making sure you have recycling plans and bike racks and stuff like that. But this is about the building and how much, how it's constructed and it would impact its future operational stuff. I haven't actually read it, but the designer selection RFP is out on the street. It got released yesterday. And it made notes that there's like some goals, maybe net zero, like people, they just threw some buzzwords in it.
I think they're just looking for architects that have that experience. I generally agree with you, Robin, that I think coming to the table with some very specific asks is probably a good plan. And I think what I don't fully understand is where will be the right place for you to bring that input. It won't be the school committee. It might be the PBC. It might be that high school working group. There's going to be all kinds of community meetings that are going to start to happen. So I agree that if there are certain things that that we believe should be considered, being as specific as possible and getting going on that so that you have it when the time comes is going to be important. I will tell you that there's already been discussion about, the balance of costs and what is going to be reasonable. The Stoneham High School is going to cost $180 million, and the MSBA is covering like 60 or 80 of it. Like they're not covering 50% because they're calling all kinds of things extras, right? And so I think this is going to be a very different vote than it was for the Galvin, where we were only having to pass kind of, I can't even remember the exact numbers, but I think the building cost like 100 million, if that. And we got 45 or 50, almost 50% covered. Like, I just don't think we're going to see that with the high school. And so I do know that there's a bit of concern about trying to push through the town funding, 2/3 of a $180 million building, because the Stoneham building is probably about the same size as what we're going to need here in Wakefield. And so I just say all of that because I think the better prepared this committee comes in with, like, these are the things we think are the most important, the better off we're going to be of maybe being able to advocate for those things to happen.
Susie, well put, because so I sit on the other side of the table on my day job, and in the community that my school is being built in, there's one person out there saying, do this sustainability, and he doesn't have a everything he says is great, but there isn't a majority interest in it. And so it's not clear that that's really what the community wants. It's what this guy wants. So if there's more than one person who wants something, we need to make sure it's shared, communicated, and advocated kind of collectively, so it becomes something that gets part of the project. And yes, some things costs come a full gamut of things, and there's things that you can improve a building that aren't cost added, even if it sounds fancy. It's not. You're just taking a different approach.
Yep.
Rob,
I think Andy.
Oh, yep, Andy. Let's say something.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that, and I'll make it really brief. But thinking about as opposed to thinking about specific technologies, et cetera, thinking about performance standards and goals along those lines, and maybe allowing the architects some creativity in how to get you there could go a long way. But the sooner and earlier you get that into the mix, the better, for sure. And it would be the PBC for sure, and then follow that with the high school building committee. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. So that seems like a good goal to keep. So the third one I'd put in capital planning. This is kind of on the DPW, I guess. I'm not sure. I know we're doing the inventory right now. If there's any buildings that are currently oil, no, there's none. Or any buildings where they need upgrades of boilers to more efficient, to be planning them into the capital planning.
So a lot of work got done this year because of the COVID. So a lot of every building got touched, every unit, every fan all got upgraded. So it'll be interesting. We're in the process of putting any upgrades we did over the last year together for the green communities. So we can share that with this group also.
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, so I don't know if that is a goal. It just seemed like with the green communities and everything that's happened and everything moving forward, it might be a good plan to make sure that anything that's missed or needed doing put into the capital plan.
Sure.
And then zero waste. So I was texting with Andy today, trying to figure out how to talk about this one. So so where it's coming from, I'd mentioned the Civic Centre, the AmeriCal. We were about to do that there, or reduce the waste as much as possible for the food pantry and the Girls and Boys Club and events in there. And then we're working on the schools. We had a good plan for the elementary schools. We're trying to implement the plans for the middle school and the high school. And then there's also the DPW, the town hall. So I was trying to think of a way of not becoming a zero waste town, but setting some goals. So I was thinking that could be a committee, and we could just try and come up with some ideas and some plans for different buildings and to reduce waste. Andy, are you still there?
Are you thinking about waste reduction? I mean, I'm thinking about, there's a fair amount of follow-up. I mean, there's a fair amount of follow-up on food rescue, right? To sort of get that started.
That's part, yeah.
I think the town composting program is going pretty well, except I think we've reached a plateau. It looks to me as I log into Black Earth about how many people have logged in.
Oh, how many is that?
So I feel like there's a little bit more that we could do in terms of sort of trying to mobilize the town around waste reduction generally, now that the infrastructure is in place, at least in composting.
So this I can give a little update. So since May 1st, 124 people have signed up for Black Earth weekly pickup.
Great.
Yes. We sold 122 rain barrels at the rain barrel sale, and 50 people so far have purchased backyard composters. That sale ends next Wednesday, and the pickup is next Friday.
Cool.
I logged in, Myra. It's 309, or Rob, you were asking, is the total subscriptions.
Well, yeah, it's going up. So I just thought that was Andy's raised his hand. Hi, Andy, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, one way to think about this, because there is a lot of good stuff going on, and, some of it could use a little more energy for sure. You just think about whether or not Wakefield wants to formally kind of set itself on a path of, as the zero waste folks like to say, zero waste or darn close to it. But, it's really an aspirational way to talk about waste reduction and even source reduction going upstream. But, there's a well-documented international framework for how communities take on what they call the zero waste principles. And, that just might help Wakefield, kind of formalize how it wants to approach this over time. It's certainly a long-term goal and objective. Boston just started struggling with this a couple of years ago and brought in some consultancy help to help them figure out how to tackle it. But I feel like you all are, already on the path with some of the work going on the organics and, the work in the schools on organics and recycling and everything else that's been mentioned. But just being able to tie a nice bow around that and giving you kind of a foundation to work from in out years as you work on your next goal or your next objective, just having that framing of the zero waste principles might be helpful. Just something to consider.
That's great. Thank you.
And then number 5 was just split up into 2 sections. Mary's been doing a lot of work on the land and done a lot of research on that. There's a lot that can be done there. Did you want to say anything, Mary, about that?
Well, the last we spoke was with Joe, and Myra and Rob are both there, as well as Bill, I think it's Renault, the town engineer. Is that his
Renault.
title?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just kind of exploring. I think this is sort of a safety net, if you will. I don't think there's any immediate risk. That being said, crazier things have happened with town land. Town land is technically public, so I do get a little nervous with the development, and I think it would be a good balance to make sure we have reassurance that in the future, long term, we have green spaces. Asthma rates, just being in healthcare, are highly correlated with the number of trees you have in your town, just as one example, especially with children. So, you know, I think it's really important for us to think not just short term, but long term. And for me, this is a long term consideration that I don't think most people are aware that some of our land could technically be sold, like our town forest. Whether that's likely or not, to me, is besides the point, because I think if I've learned anything in contracting, never say never. Unexpected events happen all the time, hence COVID. So I just think this is sort of a long-term plan. We had a great discussion, to get back to that, just about trying to think about what are the implications of basically transferring, going through a process to transfer the land to the Conservation Commission, which, as I think I mentioned before, but I'll recap, would put the land into Article 97, which offers much greater protections. It's not impossible, but it's much greater protection against it being, you know, sold to a developer, as an example. So that was a good discussion. What really came out of that is sort of further exploration around really understanding beyond the town forest what other green spaces may be potentially at sort of moderate risk, that we'd want to do that, and sort of taking a holistic view of what our priorities might be, as well as, and then there's a master plan, I think, that's in process right now being updated. So that's one of the next steps is to kind of take a look at that, as well as potentially form a subcommittee. So again, pending if we decide this is one of our priorities, you know, we could potentially form a subcommittee with conservation, DPW. Of course, we'd have to throw some lawyers into the ring and make sure we're doing the right thing and thinking about all the angles. But our key question for Joe and Bill was really, are there any implications for them if we transferred it from the DPW to conservation? And I think it was a resounding no, that they think, you know, within some reasonable accommodations, like if they needed to, I don't know, put in a water pipe somewhere, that there would, you know, there would be some flexibility, which we could think about. So overall, it was a healthy discussion. So that's just a mini update of where we're at with that. But I certainly think it's something we need to think about. Again, I think this is a long-term play, not sort of a short-term immediate need, like maybe some of the other considerations with the watershed that Rob and I were talking about previously. So I don't know if you want to touch on the watershed issue, Rob.
Yeah, so this
Is that our issue? I guess, you know, that was a good question. I guess Susie brought that up earlier, is, you know, pending what happens with the lake committee is, you know, it could become a concern we have to carry the ball on, but I guess that's the question.
Yeah, so I'll wait to get the answer on that one. Yeah.
So the other question that I had heard, and I just don't know if we want to put, you know, maybe under consideration under land protection too, is a general review of our zoning. And I'm going to quote Robin as, I believe, saying that some of our zoning restrictions are much more lenient than other neighboring communities, which we see the impact of in some of the development around town. And so whether it's worth thinking about our zoning more broadly, even beyond the watershed protection. And that would take, you know, 2/3 votes at town meeting to change the zoning bylaws. But I think that was another question that was sort of brought up is, you know, is this the time to start thinking about those and just take a look at those look at some of the key zoning components, and in comparison to other neighboring communities or other model communities in Massachusetts. I don't know, Robin, if I got that right.
No, you did a great summary. And I guess I would add that, yes, there is a zoning bylaw review committee, I think it's called, but I don't think that they may be charged with a different thing in terms of making sure bylaws aren't conflicting with each other. The thought would be is that we look at it from the lens of, do we think that we have the rules in place that it'll, from a sustainability standpoint. One thing that's in our zoning, I haven't read it for a while, so forgive me if it's said slightly wrong, is front lawns are actually limited to how much paving you can have on it. And that's a sustainability reason, because we want to make sure that runoff doesn't go into the street. We want rainwater to go into the ground. So that's a great one. But is there other things that we can be modifying or adding to, you know, to have those kind of impacts? Size of buildings and things like that.
Robin, do we have anything in, or maybe, you know, other communities that have zoning bylaws that, you some sort of ratio of the amount of building to land?
Yes, it's something called an FAR, floor area ratio. So it's the size of a structure compared to the piece of land it sits on. And FARs, you can have a FAR of say 2, and it doesn't dictate if you have a 1-story building or a tiny 5-story building. FAR doesn't get into the proportions of your volume. It just goes into the total. Other zoning rules would limit how funny shaped you apply it. But that is one way that some communities have tried to mitigate the McMansion kind of concept of small, you know, modest house on a big piece of land getting replaced by a not modest house on the same size land.
Yeah. And it would, yeah, I would think that would kind of tie into some of the stuff, you know, like the rain garden, because that's all what the rain gardens are there for, is to, you know, direct the rain into the ground and not having a lot of non-permeable structures or pavement or whatever on the land.
Yep, there's some communities that, in addition to the FAR, they have a footprint percentage, and they can define it as, you know, your edge of roof. Some actually define it like decking would be considered as if it was a building, because a deck changes how the ground receives the water and so forth. So it can get really technical, and it can not, you know, there's, you know, where we'd want to fit would have to be for communities' input.
So we'll leave them on and maybe figure out some subcommittees for the next meeting. Does that seem like a good plan?
Yeah, I think this has been really helpful and really fascinating to me. I guess maybe my ask would be that people sort of think about this and also what's not on the list. If people have sort of individual priorities or things that you sort of see opportunity for us in the coming year, and that maybe we start there next time. Rob, does that make sense? Again, I don't know.
Well, we can, yeah.
But or maybe even send any ideas that you have of things that aren't on here to Rob and to me, and then we can start the next meeting sort of with a proposal of sort of committees or subcommittees, or how we see that this potential work and the prioritization next year.
Yeah.
Or for, you know, this year.
Yeah, that sounds like plan. And Dan, I will make sure you have everybody's email, and Melissa, I'll put you in and I'll add Sean. And just remember, you have to only reply to us. If you haven't done the training
Uma,
yet.
Nick,
Then.
you're in here too. You know, if you have other thoughts or ideas about where your particular interests lie, you're still quite new, and so we'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah. So item 7, we actually covered most of this just in the discussion, right? Trash. I talked about the green communities land. I don't have any update on the safe streets.
Rob, can
community.
you go back for a second under waste? I was just
Oh,
curious.
yeah.
And last month, Joe said that he thought that the corrugated cardboard container would be available starting July 1st. Are we still on target? Anne?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me check on that. I know it, he had been ordering the container, but I think there was some modifications that need to be made. So rain, and you couldn't get too much in it, you know, so people weren't putting items that weren't supposed to go in there in it, but I'll get back to you.
Great, thanks. And social media, I'll just give you a quick update. We are still figuring out how to do the Instagram. I am working on it. So I'll hopefully we'll have something for the next meeting. Updates, student members, do you have anything you'd like to add? Any updates? Nick, did you go to the Wakefield, the WCAT in the end?
We haven't yet. Sophie and I are working on it. We're going to organize a date to go and record that message about the plastic bylaws. We've just been kind of busy.
Oh, no problem. Uma, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. So the end of my term on the youth council technically ends on the 30th. So depending on whether or not I get reappointed to the council, I might not be here. I hope I get
Uma, we didn't select you tied to the youth council.
You didn't?
No, you applied as yourself.
No.
Are
No?
you sure?
No, that's Nick and Abby and Sophie and Addie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Uma is our youth council representative.
My apologies, Uma.
It's all right. So yeah.
Well, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you. Susie, do you have any quick updates? Any updates you want to?
So the only official update I have, or really it's more of a question, is we owe this committee or town hall a waiver request. And I was talking to Doug about it for styrofoam because we're not gonna be able to do the 100% getting rid of it. And I wasn't sure, Julie and I spoke about kind of what Danielle needs to include in the waiver, and it needs to, talk about kind of what our current situation is, what we're doing to change things, kind of why we weren't able to be compliant in time. But Doug did ask me a clarifying question of how long the waiver is for. And I was not sure of the answer to that question. So I just wanted to check. And I guess my other question is, well, I don't know if any restaurants have asked for a waiver either. So I don't know if there's an agreement as to how long the waiver is, but we are working on that on the school side, but just needed to understand like what the expectation is from you guys of how long that waiver, is it a year-long waiver or not?
I know that, so Steve Mayo, the enforcement of the bylaws is not going to begin until the end of the year. And I don't know how long the waiver is good for, but I know that they're not going to be strict about these bylaws at all until the end of the year.
Okay, I can follow up with Julie too if nobody knows for sure. I had thought, my feeling was, why don't we say 6 months and we revisit in 6 months to just see like how do things look at the end of the year, and at that point is there an opportunity to make some changes, especially because I have also heard Steve say that maybe we could use some of the federal grants that are coming in, or the federal, aid money. I think the concern about doing that is one-time money that if you build some assumptions into the budget, at some point, we're going to have to pay for that out of the school budget. So we want to be really smart about how that money gets used and whether we should use it for this or not. It's really not our decision. The school committee will make decisions about some of the money that they get allocated, but the town overall, the money comes to the town and then the town allocates it. So regardless, I'm working with Danielle on the writing up of that waiver. I'll follow up with with Julie and just make sure that we're all clear of kind of when are we revisiting this topic on the school side. But that's really my only update, other than kind of all the civics project stuff that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, which are great. So thank you.
Yeah, actually, you know, I thought of a couple of the other, there was somebody who asked about solar panels on the new high school. So one of the kids wanted to know, like, how do we make sure that there's solar panels on the new high school? So I talked a little bit about the kind of the different groups that exist, and that the actual high school is not built under the direction of the school committee, that it's actually built under the direction of the PBC. So that was one other one that kind of applied. So it was the you know, clean lakes, it was that, it was a lot about recycling. So yep, that's it from me.
Susie, on the solar panels for the high school, I know that there's already discussions with the utility with including solar panels, a battery, and you know, generation as well, as kind of energy around the high school to make it more sustainable, and even talks of, you know, all of that put together, potentially a microgrid, because, you know, you have Woodville and the Voc, so they're looking at, you know, how do we make that area, because those are 3 large load buildings in a very, very close area. So potentially looking at, you know, infrastructure changes in that area to kind of create a microgrid.
Oh, that's great. That's cool.
They're already looking at that stuff.
That would make sense, and because the Voc is, you know, a couple years ahead of us, that we need to be thinking about that, and the high school likely will be built in that general vicinity, right? It's not like we have other plots of land where we would be able to build a new high school. So I think that's smart planning. Cool. That's it from me.
Thanks, Susie. So Julie's not here. She's on her retreat with the town council tonight. The update when I spoke to that they on the 28th they're going to do the vehicle policy for the green communities. Tom, do you have any other updates?
Yeah. So the Gas and Light Board at our last meeting, we did go ahead and vote and approve new green choice power. So be rolling out that program soon-ish, and that will give customers in town the ability to opt into an additional per kilowatt rate to make your usage for your home or business 100% non-carbon. So we essentially take the portfolio that we have today that's non-carbon, which is about 50%, and then that extra kilowatt charge that you pay will then purchase mass class 1 RECs to make your usage for your home 100% non-carbon. So that'll be a new program that we roll out, and it will be totally optional as well. As you all know, we had 4 or 5 days of super heat here, and that led to peak events the last 4 days. And what a peak event is, just the demand is so high, costs of electricity go up, and it is some of our most dirty production power as we bring on oil, coal, and gas fired plants to make up that demand. So just another plug for the connected homes during, sign up for Shave the Peak so that you get notified when a peak event happens. And during those hours, any energy reduction that one can do just helps the grid and everyone else and the environment. And then we also discussed, and just at our last meeting, kind of the alternative gas systems of the future. So what does that look like? So we're just kind of starting to explore some of those things, whether that is a, replacing or augmenting the gas systems that we have in the ground today with, say, a geothermal system. So instead of running gas through pipes, we will run, geothermal systems that then connect into heat pump type in your home. So instead of having a gas-fired boiler, you would have a heat pump that takes off of that geothermal system. So just kind of exploratory stuff. What does that technology look like? And so we're just starting to think about those things. Those are.
Can I ask you a crazy idea about that?
Yep, go ahead.
Is the
Which one?
lake a potential place for geothermal piping?
Is the lake?
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea. Would be something that the smart engineers would have to come up with. The geothermal I know about, is drilling down to, I think they have to go down at least 60 feet to grab that stable layer. So I'm not sure if the lake is something that would be considered that could be a geothermal source.
I saw Andy's thumb up. Does that mean he knows something about it? Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. It's different math because the bottom only goes to a certain degree, and then it doesn't get any colder, right? So you just, how much line do you have to run out for how much return on that? But yeah, the lake bottom geothermal loops are a thing for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure that our lake, because I think our lake's a maximum depth of 8 feet, so it's not terribly deep. So you may not get a lot of energy out of that.
Yeah. Anything else, Tom?
No, that was it, unless there was any questions.
And do you have any other updates, Anne?
I've told it all I have.
Thank you. They were great. It's good to hear about the composting and everything else. So Clean Lake Committee, we're waiting to hear on that. Sustainable events, the farmers market starts next Saturday. There's some great new vendors, new farmers. So please come along. It should be good. There's no restrictions. Yeah.
Hey, Rob, is the community table being brought back this year?
The community, the non-profit, yes,
table?
yes, that's added back in.
We
Yep.
should, as a committee, maybe consider getting it for a week just as a way to do more outreach and talk to people.
Yeah, sure. I know someone that could put it on the list. If we
You
want
do?
to do
What a great opportunity.
it. Yeah, I could.
You stole my idea. I was just going to suggest that as a committee.
Yep.
Grab a table.
Sure. Yeah, I'll figure something out and put some dates out for us. Our next meeting is July 8th. Is that okay with everyone? To leave it there? I see nods. That's okay?
Dan
Just
and
after-
Melissa, does this time generally work for you? It's the second Thursday of the month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rob, I'm just looking at the calendar. I don't know if this impacts anyone, but the movies by the lake is at night as well. So I didn't know if that's anyone associated with WCAT or anything.
Tom, what's
Do
the
it
movie?
earlier that night.
I have no idea. I'm just looking at
I think the movie starts when it starts getting dark, so they like depends on.
Yeah.
We could do it a bit earlier.
I wasn't saying I was going. I was just.
We're shorter.
What's on the calendar?
Right. Before dark. We have to finish before dark. We could do that. All
I'll
right.
run right out of his house.
Same schedule as this meeting, so it's every Thursday, or?
It's normally every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Yeah.
The movies are every other Thursday through the summer. So I think it's like 4 or 6 different times.
Oh.
Maybe just 4. I think that's what it is. I don't think.
I think it's maybe every week in July, the movies.
Oh,
That's
okay.
correct, yeah.
And then there's
Maybe
a
the first week
a
in
makeup
August.
in August.
Oh, okay. My bad.
So just one. Okay. All right. So we'll leave it there then. Okay. Is there any matters not anticipated on the agenda that anybody needs to bring up or wants to bring up? No. Okay. All right. Nice to meet you, Dan. And Melissa, I met you before, but
Great to meet you all. It's, it's going to take a couple of meetings before I really understand the scope and the depth of what you guys are doing. but I'm impressed.
Thanks. And
Dan, we'll connect with you offline. You know, because there was a lot of content here, and I think it was good to give a little bit of an overview of what is going on, but it is a lot, so we'll follow up.
Yeah.
You know, for any
Yeah,
questions
and
or
the other
whatever.
thing is I do my homework as well. I take a look at what's going on with this committee and the town and so forth and so on. But still, you know, nothing is like what we're doing right here and getting into the nitty gritty of what's going on.
It's great.
right. All right. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make
Second.
that adjourn.
Do you want to
Want
do
me to
the
practice? Want me
Go
to
on then.
practice roll call?
Yeah.
Melissa,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
Mary,
Yes.
Susie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
All right.
Thank you all for joining in. It was really a great discussion, and I hope you have a
Thank
good week.
you.
Everyone,
Sounds
enjoy
you
it.
guys.
well.
That's it.
Goodbye.
There.
Bye.
Bye.